Enough's enough.
Fergie, to me, she is more dangerous than anybody.
Many people in this world are lost. It's excruciating to live with past mistakes. It is so difficult. I always would like to change so many things in my past, but I can't. I've got to move forward, and it's very difficult to go back over them.
From the outside, Meghan Markle built the perfect narrative, the innocent outsider, the misunderstood woman who only wanted love, the victim of a ruthless monarchy.
Harry, being a simple soul, has easily changed to suit Meghan's agenda.
But the moment Sarah Ferguson finally decided to speak, that fairy tale storyline started to look more like a high-budget PR illusion than reality.
And that ridiculous story about how they first met, the whole thing was a tissue of inaccuracies, to be polite.
Because Fergie wasn't just watching from a distance, she saw Meghan up close, before the wedding, before the titles, before the cameras.
Sarah Ferguson is as cunning and as deviant and as skanky as Rachel Meghan Markle. She just was lucky that when she was doing all her skankiness, the internet was not around.
And according to insiders, what she saw was not a humble newcomer overwhelmed by royalty, but a calculated climber who walked into the royal circle acting like she already owned the room.
She brought Jeffrey Epstein into that idiot formerly known as Prince Andrew into the royal family.
And here's the cruel plot twist Meghan didn't see coming. Fergie isn't some quiet, harmless bystander waiting to applaud her rise. No, Sarah Ferguson has receipts, not rumors, not guesswork. Real interactions, real conversations, real warning signs that everyone chose to ignore because Meghan was the main character of the royal soap opera at the time.
Meghan Markle was known as a hardcore yacht partying person, ready for anything.
While Meghan has spent years trying to build an image of elegance, empowerment, and victimhood, Fergie is now hinting at a different version, one where Meghan wasn't pushed out of the family. She walked in like a queen before becoming one, burned every bridge on her way up, and expected applause for it. And if even half of what Fergie says goes public, Meghan's princess era won't just end, it'll crash harder than her Netflix ratings. And that's only the beginning, because the real story, it's 1,000 times worse.
Her man serves her no purpose. Does that sound familiar? Fergie saying, oh, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. Why? Because now she no longer has the use of the title.
Before Meghan Markle ever laid eyes on Prince Harry, long before she started preaching about being a misunderstood outsider, she was already moving through elite circles like someone who'd been rehearsing for royalty her entire life. And Sarah Ferguson was right there watching it unfold, not because Meghan was famous, but because Meghan made sure she was seen by the kind of people who could open doors money couldn't buy. While the public still saw Meghan as a struggling actress from Suits, Fergie allegedly watched her effortlessly blend with billionaires, political insiders, and upper-class power brokers as if she'd been raised for that world. Names like Marcus Anderson weren't just casual acquaintances, they were gateways. The Soho House wasn't a hangout, it was the networking battlefield where Meghan learned exactly which connections could fast-track her future.
He is like a parasite, always lurking in their shadow. No normal family has a constant third wheel, male or female, leeching onto their every move. Marcus is practically glued to them.
And then came the Jamaica private jet trip. Not for royal reasons, not for charity, but for access. Meghan joined a high society destination wedding full of old money heirs, aristocrats, and global socialites. Fergie didn't see a shy girl intimidated by wealth. She saw an ambitious woman laser-focused on getting into the world she now pretends she accidentally stumbled into. The twist? Harry wasn't even on her radar yet. Not seriously. Meghan wasn't circling one prince, she was orbiting power itself, and Fergie clocked it from day one.
Listen, I brought Meghan Markle, whatever her name is, to my Deal or No Deal celebrity golf tournament.
But in the end, nothing beats the truth, the real facts.
She was one of my Deal or No Deal girls that were, she was a caddy for all of my celebrities.
But there's something even more shocking, something Meghan said during those early days that Fergie never forgot. And that's where things start getting messy. When Meghan finally entered the royal orbit officially, the York family, especially Princess Beatrice, Princess Eugenie, and Sarah Ferguson, were among the first to welcome her with genuine warmth. They knew what it felt like to be judged by the press, to be dissected by headlines, to be labeled before ever getting a fair chance. So instead of keeping their distance, they opened their doors. Fergie reportedly treated Meghan like someone who deserved guidance, not competition. She offered advice, insider support, and the kind of empathy Meghan loudly claimed she never received from the royals.
That she arrived in London, full career, single girl, wasn't interested. Of course, she'd been coming to London since 2013, hunting for a man to marry. She wanted an Englishman. She was on a man hunt.
For a while, everything looked cordial. Tea invites, family gatherings, friendly conversations. The Yorks weren't threatened, they were rooting for her. Then something shifted the moment Meghan and Harry's relationship intensified. The once grateful newcomer allegedly started acting like she'd already outranked everyone in the room. Beatrice and Eugenie, born royals, suddenly found themselves treated like background extras in Meghan's personal documentary. Fergie noticed it instantly. Meghan's tone changed, her interest evaporated, and her friendliness became transactional. It wasn't distance from pressure, it was distance from people she no longer needed. She didn't rise, she stepped over them.
And there are many things that are good, but good news doesn't sell papers, and bad Fergie sells.
What hurt Fergie wasn't arrogance alone, it was the speed of the transformation. The woman they'd supported flipped the script so fast it left the Yorks silent and confused, and it only got more humiliating from there. Because the day came when Meghan didn't just cool off the relationship, she cut it with surgical precision, and that's when everything exploded. The breaking point didn't arrive with a public argument, a dramatic confrontation, or a tabloid headline. It came with silence. According to insiders, the moment everything collapsed between Meghan and Sarah Ferguson was shockingly simple. Fergie reached out, and Meghan never answered. No explanation, no courtesy, not even a polite excuse. One day they were supposedly on good terms, and the next, Meghan acted like Fergie didn't exist.
The more you know Sarah Ferguson, the more you realize actually what a villain she is. She was actually in touch with Epstein for years afterwards, staying in his flats.
And this wasn't some casual message lost in the chaos of wedding planning. This was a genuine call for connection. Fergie reached out to check on her, support her, and offer guidance. Meghan ignored her completely. To Fergie, it wasn't a scheduling oversight. It was a clear signal. Meghan had decided who mattered in the royal world, and the Yorks weren't on that list anymore. That single unanswered call became the turning point. It wasn't disrespect, it was dismissal, and it confirmed what Fergie had already started to suspect. Meghan didn't maintain relationships. She replaced them when something better came along. What stung the most wasn't the ghosting itself. It was the realization that all the warmth the Yorks had shown wasn't appreciated. It had been useful, temporary, disposable. Family loyalty meant nothing if it didn't fit Meghan's new narrative.
It really is. It's because you just cringe. You just think, it's not me.
And for the first time, Fergie saw Meghan without the charm, without the PR sparkle, without the poor outsider mask. She saw strategy. And once Fergie understood that, she also understood what Meghan was really afraid of, the past being uncovered. And that's where Fergie holds all the cards. If Meghan thought ghosting Fergie meant the past would stay buried, she seriously miscalculated. Because out of everyone who crossed Meghan's path before the royal wedding, Fergie is one of the few who knows the real network behind her rise. The parties, the private flights, the social players who polished Meghan's reputation long before Hollywood ever called her a star. And if Fergie ever decides to speak, it won't be about dresses or tiaras. It'll be about the parts Meghan worked hardest to erase.
Now it's payback time. Meghan and Fergie are both exactly the same. People say, oh, Fergie never talked bad about the royal family, because Fergie was literally blackmailing the royal family, because Fergie has been part of the shady deals that Andrew has done and some of King Charles.
The polished, innocent outsider story would instantly shatter if the world hears how intentionally she positioned herself among power brokers, tech billionaires, and titled aristocrats before Harry was ever an option. Then there's the rumor Fergie has privately rolled her eyes at for years, that Meghan wasn't originally fascinated by Harry. She was fascinated by the idea of royalty. Power first, prince second. Fergie is said to know exactly which royal Meghan's attention landed on before Harry, and it was not someone the PR team would ever want to discuss publicly. Add to that the whispers surrounding why Harry's longtime friend Tom Ince was allegedly blocked from the wedding, a story Fergie reportedly knows in full detail, and the palace desperately hopes never resurfaces. And none of this is tabloid fan fiction. Fergie learned these things through direct access, real conversations, and first-hand observation. Meghan can downplay headlines, but she can't outspin someone who was there.
My mistakes have been put on the public stage. Other people's mistakes aren't.
And the most explosive part, Fergie hasn't spoken yet. Not because she can't, but because she's deciding when. And that timing is Meghan's worst nightmare. While Meghan has been busy believing she's still the center of the royal storyline, the palace has quietly shifted into a brutal calculation mode. And Fergie fits into that equation far more conveniently than Meghan does. Behind closed doors, the attitude is no longer protect Meghan at all costs, but rather use what benefits the crown and ignore what doesn't. And right now, Fergie has become valuable, while Meghan has become replaceable. Buckingham Palace isn't rushing to silence Fergie, isn't issuing statements, and isn't scrambling to defend Meghan's image, because they don't need to anymore. Meghan isn't useful to the institution, and that makes her the easiest person to sacrifice if things get messy.
And I do hope the authorities will actually pursue some of these investigations. They will bring charges, and I think if they do so, there's a very good chance that both he and Sarah Ferguson may well go to prison.
Wow, that's a revelation.
King Charles reportedly maintains polite distance, but isn't opposed to keeping Fergie on the inside if it prevents her from turning her potential revelations into ammunition for the public. public. Prince William, on the other hand, isn't losing a minute of sleep because from his perspective, if Meghan's PR castle collapses, that's not a crisis, that's cleanup. The palace has survived scandals far worse, and history shows exactly how it operates when someone no longer serves a purpose: silence, distance, and strategic indifference. And whether Meghan realizes it or not, the message is already clear. If there's collateral damage, she's the collateral. The person she underestimated the most has now become the one person the palace is quietly letting speak, because if covering for Meghan protects nothing, exposing her suddenly becomes useful, and Meghan has no defense against that kind of power shift.
And I think it's a great coup for the Mail on Sunday and the Sun to have found this email. I'm not quite sure how it emerged, but it's quite clear that this is only the tip of the iceberg and there's much, much more to emerge.
If Meghan had picked her enemies strategically, Sarah Ferguson would have been the last name on that list, because unlike the tabloids, the royal commentators, or random online critics, Fergie doesn't have to guess who Meghan really is. She watched the evolution firsthand, and worse for Meghan, Fergie has already lived through every type of royal scandal imaginable. She's been humiliated publicly, ripped apart by the press, and thrown under the bus by the palace long before Meghan ever discovered what a headline feels like. Which means Fergie isn't scared of backlash, reputation damage, or being painted as the villain. She's already survived that era. She has nothing left to lose, and nothing Meghan can do will ever shock her or silence her. Meghan played the PR game like a chessboard, but she misjudged Fergie's role. Fergie isn't a disposable side character. She's a woman who spent decades swallowing secrets to keep the peace, and now nobody controls her. Not the monarchy, not the media, and definitely not Meghan Markle. With no titles at risk and no palace pressure to keep quiet, Fergie has total freedom to say whatever she wants, whenever she wants.
What Fergie is going to do is just gonna blow his father, Camilla, Catherine, and William, because she blames Prince William and Princess Catherine for her misfortunes. She doesn't blame herself, or she doesn't take any accountability for the fact that it is her behavior that got her ousted.
And unlike anonymous sources or gossip reporters, she doesn't need to prove her claims. She was there. Meghan can threaten, spin, deny, or cry foul if she wants. But none of that intimidates someone who already lived through the worst headlines the monarchy could throw. And when a woman with receipts, memory, and zero fear reaches her breaking point, that's when destruction becomes effortless. And now the picture is finally clear. Meghan didn't just burn bridges. She set fire to the one person who had the power to expose every crack in her carefully designed image. Sarah Ferguson isn't coming forward out of jealousy or bitterness or desperation. She's coming forward because she's done staying silent. For years, Meghan controlled the narrative: the outsider, the victim, the misunderstood duchess fighting against the world. But that version only works as long as the people who knew the truth stay quiet. And Fergie, she's not quiet anymore. She's steady, she's strategic, and she's patient, which makes her 10 times more dangerous than a headline-hungry reporter or a Twitter rumor mill. The storm hasn't hit yet, but it's building. Every day Fergie stays silent isn't safety for Meghan, it's a countdown. Whether Fergie speaks in an interview, a book, a documentary, or an off-the-record leak, Meghan's PR shield can't protect her from someone who doesn't fear consequences. Meghan ghosted the wrong woman, and now that past might be the one thing she can't outrun. If you want to understand how this entire saga began, with the first red flags that pointed toward the downfall we're now witnessing, then you need to binge watch our previous video. It explains the emotional and political chain reaction behind this entire situation without revealing the title, but you'll know it by the description. Sarah Ferguson reveals shocking truth about her relationship with Meghan Markle. This is Star Spotlight, where royal image ends and royal reality begins. Stay tuned, we're just getting started.